The only way Communist China makes money is through the blood, sweat, and tears of its people. Since the model of making money through the hard work and sweat of Chinese people no longer works in the context of US-China trade, Communist China hopes to expand trade with ASEAN and the Middle East. Will this scenario happen? Yes, it will, but it's completely different. Communist China's trade with the Middle East, Africa, and ASEAN is one-way export rather than mutual. As for products such as socks and Nike shoes made in China, when the goods arrive in Southeast Asia, these are exactly the goods that Southeast Asia wants to sell to you. How can you expect to sell to them? The so-called cheap labor from Communist China doesn't work in Southeast Asia. The productivity gained through pollution isn't effective. The CCP's previous exports to these countries, such as Huawei's products and other counterfeit technology products, are no longer needed. What can you rely on? When those countries realize that you are enemies with the US and Europe, countries that account for 86% of the world's GDP, will they still cooperate with you? Will they still engage in trade with you? No way. Then the US will respond with one harsh measure after another, from prohibition of selling products to you, to punishment of anyone who sells goods to you, or cooperates with you. What is the biggest strategic interest for the United States? The US won't let you die, but I won't let you live well either. Venezuela, Iran, North Korea and Syria are all countries that have been subject to US sanctions. Yet these authoritarian regimes are still surviving, right? Remember, the United States can quickly destroy them in no time. However, the US has no need to eliminate them. The United States doesn't need to boast about how great it is. Just look at Cuba. As long as you're human, you'll understand. Cubans flee to the US, while Americans don't flee to Cuba. This is called a balance tactic. What is the US perspective on Communist China? The US is currently concerned with two main issues. First, never allow the CCP to possess the power to truly confront the US. Once the CCP achieves it, it could use nuclear weapons. The US seeks to bring the CCP's harm down to zero. Secondly, when it believes that the CCP is not powerful enough to pose a threat to the survival of the United States in terms of weaponry, it must ensure that the CCP's economy does not become strong enough. When the CCP is taken down, what the US worries about most is whether China will be in chaos. That means, what it cares about is who will be the next to hold power in China after the CCP. From the US perspective, the CCP becoming strong enough to threaten America's existence is absolutely unacceptable. Moreover, if China were to become chaotic, it would not align with US interests either. So, what does the US hope for now? It hopes for Communist China to become like Iran. No matter how chaotic Communist China becomes, it should not have an impact on the US, the UAE, Saudi Arabia or Iraq. My greatest concern is that China will become like present-day Iran in the future. That would be a major disaster. So, I want the CCP to be gone as soon as possible. Even if the CCP does not collapse, it cannot remain in its current state of limbo, which would ruin the Chinese people for 1 or 2 generations.